up? It's your boy T-Bear in reaction. Today I'm about to do some wrestling reaction. As this today is WWE Survivor Series WarGames. So it's the first time in ever that WarGames will be on Survivor Series. So as for past while, it's been going on NXT as well. I mean, before that, it used to got started in WCW/NWA. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to kick things off with from partsFUNknown, 10 greatest WarGame matches ever. We're going to take a look at greatest matches from NXT as well as WCW as well too. So without further ado, let's check out the 10 greatest WarGames matches. Even though I don't like the guy who's doing it right now because of what he did to boxing him. That's this man right here. Yeah. Anyway, let's get it.
WarGames!
Yup.
So after years of waiting, WWE is finally set to bring the classic WarGames stipulation match to the main roster with this week's Survivor Series. No longer just an NXT exclusive, WWE is probably going to start off with a banger, almost a guarantee considering Sheamus is involved. But they are not the only ones to house the match over the years. There have been WarGames matches in one form or another in most major promotions in North America, dating back to the Stip's inception in the NWA, courtesy of the mind of Dusty Rhodes. It's one of wrestling's great creations, a double cage with two or more teams entering at alternating staggered intervals. It has built-in psychology, with the heels having an advantage for the babyfaces to overcome, except for when they that bit up, but that is a tangent for another list. And the more modern matches have evolved to also include some of the biggest high spots of the year for NXT and AEW. Let the WarGames begin.
That's right.
I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 greatest WarGames matches ever. But before we get on with this list, make sure, of course, that you like this video and subscribe to partsFUNknown so you can never miss it.
Let's get to this. He doing is that I get it, but let's do this.
Honorary mention: The Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle, AEW Blood and Guts 2021.
This was a good match.
AEW's first foray into the double cage just misses the cut, not because it isn't a great match, just watch it, you'll see that it is, but unfortunately when people talk about this match, they don't talk about how great it is. With FTR brawling with Santana and Ortiz, Wardlow having a hoss fight with Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara doing excellent high flying. No, they talk about the finish that on paper sounds great. The Inner Circle surrendering on behalf of Chris Jericho as MJF threatens to pitch him off the top of the cage, only for MJF to push Jericho off anyway. But in practice, Jericho fell onto a bed, and Twitter had a laugh about it. Number 10, the Four Horsemen versus Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, the Road Warriors, and Paul Ellering, NWA Great American Bash 1987.
That's the first WarGame, because if you ever see the promo for the first WarGame on NXT, Paul Ellering talking about, I was part of the first one. You know, then when he's talking to the AOP.
The earliest WarGames match to feature on this list is a sight to behold. Has it aged the most gracefully? No, not really, but how much of the wrestling from 1987 has? These early WarGames matches set the bar very high for their time, and there is still plenty of enjoyment to get out of them today, especially when you consider the level of talent involved in them. The Road Warriors are the most ridiculously over tag team in history. The pops they get being unstoppable badasses are ludicrous, and they have the best heels in the business to play opposite them as well, with Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen bumping around for the two monsters, as well as Dusty and Koloff. What the match really has going for it is Jim Ross on commentary and the fans being at a fever pitch for minutes on end, properly elevating this match to great territory, as this ends up being one of those early matches in a stipulation's life where not a lot of exciting things happen, but it works for its time because it's still revolutionary and the people involved are the top stars of the business. The good guys won by ramming J.J. Dillon into the cage until he quit, and I mean, yeah, that'll do it, but not before a woman screamed when Animal was thrown into the cage. Amazing. Number 9, the Midnight Express, Road Warriors, and Dr. Death Steve Williams versus the Fabulous Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team, NWA Great American Bash 1989. A lot of what I just said applies to this match from the Great American Bash in 1989 as well. If you love to hear an arena full of people losing their shit for some big meaty men bumping meat, these matches are for you. The Road Warriors and Dr. Death are so much fun to watch as they beat the shit out of the Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team. Oh, hey, Rikishi. Meanwhile,
Rikishi,
you have the
yup.
Midnight Express, the best working team of the 80s, doing the lion's share of the wrestling, which is also an excellent viewing experience, especially when you get to watch Bobby Eaton, one of the best and most underrated performers of his and any other generation, start the match and
Crazy,
get
he
some
was the
one-on-one
biggest
time
faces
with Jimmy
around time.
Garvin. You had the extra fun of Michael Hayes not wanting to get into the match, but this match really is carried by the insane performances of the babyfaces, which culminate with Animal getting the win for his team with a neck crank. A bit more climactic than the last one, but we were not yet at the point where we would see the finish be a super creative moment like we would in years to come. Number 8, Team Angle versus Team Cage. TNA Lockdown 2007.
Oh,
Look at the spread on
I
Jeremy.
remember this. I didn't remember. I don't think I saw the match because at that time I didn't get to see the pay-per-views. But I remember the build-up for this. I think this is when they was trying to have A. Then it was a big deal with AJ trying to pick teams and all that. To the point they went to his home and he was like, they made the person they make it to his home like he was like a Francis little kid. It was so funny though, but the build-up was crazy.
Borash's collar. That's the collar of a man that knows how to. Yeah, we don't get to talk about TNA in a positive light on this channel very often, and they certainly are the biggest offenders when it comes to up the man advantage stipulation, but they really nailed their Lethal Lockdown match on one occasion in 2007. Lethal Lockdown is the one match on this list that doesn't feature a second ring, but the rules of the match remain the same. Well, that is, except for TNA being TNA, and making this a bit more complicated. The person who got the pin in this match would earn a world title shot against Christian Cage, because it wouldn't be TNA without some infighting in a big tag match.
Right.
Goofiness aside, this match is chaos. However, it is chaos with all the biggest stars in the company. Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Sting, Rhino, Scott Steiner, Christian, Jeff Jarrett, just battering each other. You had Angle and Styles being the two best workers in the ring to start, and then just non-stop action. Oh, maybe that's where they got their name. And carnage throughout. There's tax, there's guitars, there's tax in a guitar.
I could be wrong, man. Maybe it's not the match, but still, maybe this could not be the match, but still, either way, this was interesting.
AJ gets ready to fly off the cage and drops like a stone. It's not the work of psychology that other matches on this list are, save for the finish where Jarrett sacrifices the title shot to Sting, but it is the kind of batshit insanity that gave TNA its charm in the mid-2000s. Number 7, Undisputed Era versus Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and Kevin Owens.
This was
NXT
awesome.
TakeOver
Yes.
WarGames 2019.
Yes.
The fans strangely aren't into this match as much as you would expect until the moment that changes, and changes fast. This match is best remembered for being the one where Kevin Owens makes his surprise return to NXT in one of the.
In case you wonder why they showed Matt Riddle, he was originally intended to be part of that War Game, but he ended up getting a match with a newly hailed Finn Balor instead. So they got Dijakovic, who had like a friendly rivalry with Keith Lee, but he sided with him. And then the surprise was who we saw right here, Kevin Owens. In case you wonder why you saw Matt Riddle, you mentioned Dominik Dijakovic.
Coolest moments in NXT's War
this
Games
was
history,
awesome.
and from there the match is white hot. Undisputed Era enter draped in gold, while Tommaso Ciampa enters wearing Reaper's mask. There isn't quite so much plunder as there was in the women's match from the same show, and we'll get to that match shortly. But this match delivers where the women only teased, with tables and tables and tables and tables.
Yes.
You had a fun mix of Dominik Dijakovic and Keith Lee's big man does thing, big man shouldn't do style, and the super indie style of Kevin Owens in the Undisputed Era. Kevin Owens back in NXT was a lovely moment that really elevated this match, but they ended this match with the climax, with Ciampa hitting an air raid crash
that was
off
awesome
the cage
ending.
through two tables, furthering Ciampa's story as he tried to regain Goldie from Adam Cole. Number 6, Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch. NXT TakeOver
This was
War
good.
Games.
This is when AUE was faced and had to get back because they was losing two. They lost 2 War Games straight though.
2020. It's crazy that the best War Games match that the Undisputed Era had was the one with the football player. Yup, it's the Pat McAfee match. War Games once again went with the tables upon tables upon tables approach, with the Bad Boys presenting a table for each member of the Undisputed Era, only for the UE to turn the tables on their opponents and put each of Dunn, Lorcan, Burch, and McAfee through said tables. This was a ridiculously ambitious performance for Pat, even if he could hide himself surrounded by super workers. He fit right in here and never looked out.
He showed out.
Hitting the big
he did
spot
show
of the
out.
match
He
with
knew
an
he heel
insane
time. He did show
swanton
out.
bomb off the cage. It's no secret at this point that McAfee is a natural at this wrestling thing, but this was...
He was showed out later on down with his match against Austin Theory and Baron Corbin, man. He was cool, man.
A gutsy performance, and he made this match better by being in it, and that absolutely was not a guarantee. A parade of finishers saw Lorcan finally pinned, and if there had been real fans in the building and not this else-world reality where there is just white noise cheering and "this is awesome" chants when you can clearly see no one is chanting, this might have taken the top spot. Number 5, Sting, Brian Pillman, and the Steiner Brothers versus Ric Flair, Barry Windham, Larry Zbyszko, and Sid. WCW Wrestle War 1991. This is where the early WarGames matches really started to take a turn into a more story-driven style, evolving past the simple but effective story beats of the man advantage. In this match, Brian Pillman goes against his team's wishes to enter the match as the first babyface despite being injured to get his revenge on Barry Windham.
Yep.
He's a House of Fire and the most modern performer of the bunch in this match, but this was not a good idea for the lad as his injury and the man disadvantage put him and his own team down early. This match featured 3 dick kicks and 4 simultaneous figure 4 leg locks. One of the first times that everybody involved got together in a coordinated spot, and it really showed that these matches were indeed evolving. In the end, Brian Pillman gets powerbombed on the top of his head by Sid when his feet hit the top of the cage, and then powerbombed again only for my fever dream to kick in as Giant Gonzalez came down and called the match off on behalf of Pillman. This match got 5 stars, and it involved Sid and Giant Gonzalez. God, ratings are fun. Number 4, NXT 1.0 versus NXT 2.0. NXT WarGames 2021. This match really benefits from not involving the Undisputed Era, which is a weird thing to say about 4 of the most talented wrestlers in NXT history. Renewed energy is through the roof in this match, and they start with the best worker from each team, Johnny Gargano and Carmelo Hayes, squaring off. Making the young stars the heels against the old guard is a move straight out of WCW, but if you ignore that fact and enjoy this match in a vacuum, it's pretty beast. Braun Breaker is one of the greatest products the Performance Center has ever produced, and this match furthered his rivalry with Tommaso Ciampa the most of the various pairs of rivals involved in this match. Grayson Waller's Swan Dive is scary and chaotic, perfectly serving as the high point of the match. This match just feels fresh. It's exciting and new, and you get to see Johnny Gargano wrestle in WarGames for the first time. NXT 2.0 might not have been everyone's cup of tea, but this WarGames event was genuinely great, and it put a bunch of young talent over strong, which is not something you can often say about WWE. Number 3, Rhea Ripley, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Tegan Nox versus Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray. NXT TakeOver WarGames 2019. Holy shit. This match goes so hard. I'll be perfectly honest, guys. TakeOver WarGames 2019 was the one takeover I missed, and I never went back to watch it until I sat down for this list. I knew the match was great, but my lord, I didn't know it was this great. This was the peak of the NXT women's roster, and the best of that roster was on full display.
Team still won regardless of what happened.
You have the story of Candice LeRae and Rhea Ripley as the ultimate underdog babyfaces, not only having to deal with the WarGames disadvantage throughout the first half of the match, but then having to continue the match 2-on-4 when Dakota Kai turned on Tegan Nox. Rhea and Candice essentially had to wrestle 2 handicap matches at the same time, with each woman taking on 2 of their opponents in each ring. These matches can feel a little cluttered at times, but this was the perfect blend of pacing and spacing that really makes this match stand out among the rest. These women were beating the shit out of each other in the perfect mix of violence and incredible spots, with Io Shirai hitting a picture-perfect moonsault off the cage before Rhea handcuffed herself to Shayna and hit the Riptide through some chairs. I truly did myself a disservice not watching this match sooner.
Why would we say this? Rhea and Shayna whole feud in NXT all together, leading to her finally be the one to dethrone Shayna from the NXT title was gold. Because this was this was part of that build up to them two going at it for the title, man. That was awesome, man.
Number 2. Blackpool Combat Club, Santana Ortiz and Eddie Kingston versus the Jericho Appreciation Society, AEW Blood and Guts 2022. It took a while for All Elite Wrestling to get to put on their Blood and Guts match in front of a massive crowd, but boy did it ever feel worth it when we finally got Blood and Guts in Detroit earlier this year. The crowd is so electric in this match, cheering for the newly star-made Wheeler Yuta to enter the match early, and then of course the monstrous reaction to Eddie Kingston finally entering the cage last. AEW's Blood and Guts matches are a lot less structured than NXT's WarGames matches. It feels like a lot more of the spots in the NXT matches are laid out ahead of time, whereas this match in particular felt incredibly chaotic.
Yeah,
that's not to say either one of those approaches is better than the other, but right from the jump, Claudio and Sammy Guevara run at each other, and it feels like a real fight with bodies just colliding with one another. This also has the benefit of being much more violent than any of the other matches on this list, with Moxley using glass, tacks, spikes, and every weapon he could get his little deathmatch loving hands on.
He was going CZW Mox on that match, man.
It is a shame that this wasn't the end of the Jericho-Kingston rivalry, because this ending of Claudio stealing Eddie's win from him really could have been the start of something awesome between them going forward, but alas, it is merely a great finish to an incredible match.
Of course, before we go there now, we have issues with it now. The Jackass Society still doing anything, unfortunately, but we have issues with BCC because of Regal helping MJF win the title against Moxley, and now we got possibly Claudio Cesaro possibly gonna be forced to go in Jackass Society because there's a stipulation that if that he's facing Jericho for the title, and if he loses, he's got to join the Jackass Society. So we are sadly seeing the dissension of the crumble of one of the best face faction we ain't had in a good while. Like the fact that we have a tough ass faction that's on the face side. That's when we're about to see the dwindling of that, though, because you always see like the heels get the crazy factions. We find the face got a crazy faction like that, and it's about to go down in history. Well, they had like Inner Circle and all that later down, but that went down as well too, and then turned to the Jackass Society. But yeah, BBC, man, it was cool. It was lovely, awesome, hard-hitting, ass-kicking faction. We about to lose now because of Regal's want to do what he did for MJF and everything. But anyway, let's see number one.
And number one,
the Dangerous Alliance
versus Sting Squadron. WCW Wrestle War 1992. I'd always heard about how good the early WarGames matches were, and I'll be honest, while still very fun, I did think that they weren't holding up quite as well as I had hoped. Until I watched this
young Paul Heyman, a young Steve Austin.
This match bangs. The Dangerous Alliance is a murderer's row of awesome.
A young Paul Heyman, a young Steve Austin, man. Oh my goodness.
Some wrestlers.
Crazy.
Rick Rude, Steve Austin, Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and you have Paul E. Dangerously spending the match going over a game plan like an actual sports coach, making the decisions of who starts and
so this is about to be his show. I just thought about it. This is about to be his second war game coming up this Saturday because you know he's with the cheat line. But anyway, this is about to be his second war game, man. What up? Let's talk about that.
Do you actually feel meaningful? There were so many new elements thrown into this match. Medusa climbed the cage and dropped Paulie's giant brick cell phone into the cage for the heels to use, not realizing she'd be spawning the finish of every shark cage match in WWE some decades later. Nikita Koloff and Sting had a great enemies turn friends moment as they were forced to decide if they were going to stand together or not, and Koloff shoved Sting to the side to save him from a heel double team before they eventually hugged in one of the bigger pops of the night. The heels unscrew the top rope from one of the rings, giving the match a feeling of chaos that you only really get when the ring starts getting destroyed, and Zbyszko used the turnbuckle hook to try and hit Sting, but missed and hit Eaton, allowing Sting to lock in an armbar on Eaton's injured shoulder for the win. It is a shame that this would be the last truly great WarGames match WCW would ever produce, but holy hell, did they save the best for sort of last.
Wow.
And that's our list. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and enable.
I might have to look at. I might have to watch that on my own myself though. That match right there, that's awesome right there. But yeah, good little thing they got going. Can you name every W champion? I don't care about that. But anyway, this was good though. The ones I definitely remember, such as the Blood and Guts, the NXT one, and some of the WCW. There's a lot now. I'm trying to figure out. Maybe I got the build up mixed up. But I do remember part of it being with AJ trying to figure out what team he was part of. I think that was this. I think it was for this one. But so some of these old school ones would sound kind of awesome though. I will say that. For real. But other than that, if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy WarGames tonight. It's your boy T-Bear signing off. One love.